called her a complete pain in the ass diva. I did. Because she is, and that's not me talking. That's a direct quote from people in the Fever.
You're tuning into Black and White Sports.
That's a serious allegation emerging directly from Indianapolis. What we're seeing now appears to be a growing divide behind the scenes within the Indiana Fever organization, and the information coming out suggests increasing internal tension. At the center of the controversy is more than just a disagreement with the media. It reflects a deeper conflict over the league's most valuable asset and the influence that comes with it.
Indianapolis. It's very clear. He comes out and says, a direct quote from the Indiana Fever front office, a direct quote, that they believe Caitlin...
The timing of this sudden shift in media coverage reveals a lot about what may be happening behind the scenes. For months, local television broadcasts and regional sports radio programs portrayed the franchise as a united organization, but that narrative changed dramatically after a widely discussed late May matchup against the Portland Fire. What is unfolding now appears to be the result of an internal transition that gained momentum when the front office officially completed its recent coaching changes.
Relationship with the Indiana Fever front office, a lot of questions start to emerge. We're going to go over a direct quote that Dockage says came from within the Fever organization, a quote that suggests someone inside the organization views Caitlin Clark very differently than what is being presented publicly, which we already knew.
This situation appears to be tied to a long-standing history within Indiana sports media and the organization itself. General Manager Lynn Dunn and head coach Stephanie White share a well-established professional relationship that stretches back to the franchise's 2012 championship season and continued through the organization's front office restructuring in 2015. When experienced local media figures begin shifting their public positions, it often suggests that key information is being intentionally communicated from higher levels within the organization.
He loves Coach Dunn. And, he was exposed right here. Shout out to Coach Anderson, says, Dan talking shit about Caitlin Clark. In case you didn't know, him and Lynn Dunn seems pretty close. Has he criticized Stephanie White one time, asked about her horrible offense and defensive schemes? I would say no. But you can see Dan Dockage frequently features Indiana Fever General Manager Lynn Dunn as a guest on a Dan Dockage
Take a closer look at how information is being handled across online platforms. Several investigative content creators have pointed out that certain archived audio segments from regional sports networks, especially interviews discussing early roster-building decisions and strategic approaches during the 2024 rookie transition period, have gradually become difficult to access. Many observers do not view this as a simple technical issue. Instead, they believe it reflects a broader effort to shape the public narrative as a new organizational message begins to take form.
Besides getting fired. Okay.
Right. So this is the dumb planting the seed, and it ties into the Scott Agnes situation. And I'll give you a little, early disclaimer. Like, yes, Scott Agnes is firing. It also is a soft seed plan by Caitlin Clark, which we'll also dive into. But just pay attention.
The narrative now being promoted seeks to place responsibility for the departure of former head coach Christy Sides largely on player influence. However, it is important to remember that Christy Sides was dismissed after guiding the team through a challenging and highly transitional development season. At the time, the front office publicly presented the decision as part of a broader move toward building a championship-level system. The recent claims portraying the situation as a player-led locker room revolt have led some observers to view it as a strategic attempt to shift attention away from management's own role in the decision-making process.
The head coach, right? Stephanie White went a miserable 46-83 at Vanderbilt. Her tenure ended when at least 6 players quit mid-season in January 2021, forcing the...
To understand why the current system is facing so much tension, it's important to look at the coaching background that was brought in to replace the previous regime. Stephanie White's earlier collegiate coaching tenure at Vanderbilt University came to an end in January 2021 following a difficult stretch of results that included a 46-83 overall record, multiple player departures through transfers, and a season disrupted by significant challenges. Critics argue that the structured, high-pressure approach associated with that period resembles the same tactical framework now being questioned as it attempts to mesh with the speed, creativity, and transition-oriented style of today's fast-paced roster.
He just confirmed. He's going to keep confirming. This is coming from inside the Fever organization, these feelings about Caitlin Clark.
But I do.
The situation becomes even more complex when looking at how media narratives intersect with locker room dynamics. Independent reporting from regional beat writers has increasingly pointed to a coaching preference for running much of the half-court offense through experienced guards such as Kelsey Mitchell, rather than fully centering the system around the long-range shooting threat and playmaking impact of the team's highly touted franchise draft pick. This approach has fueled discussion about a growing disconnect between the organization's external marketing focus and its internal basketball strategy on the court.
Talking. That's a direct quote from people in the Fever.
After today, I don't want to hear no more conspiracies. After today, I don't.
Did you hear that? It is a direct quote from the Fever organization that Caitlin.
Here is the data that many analysts point to when discussing the broader business implications of this controversy. From an economic standpoint, the modern WNBA marketplace is increasingly driven by star power and individual player appeal. League attendance has risen dramatically in games featuring Caitlin Clark, while several nationally televised broadcasts have attracted audiences reaching into the millions. Because of that reality, any narrative that negatively impacts the public perception of a franchise's most marketable player inevitably raises questions about long-term business strategy. Critics argue that when an organization allows damaging narratives to circulate around its biggest attraction, the issue extends beyond basketball operations. In professional sports, protecting and promoting the image of a franchise cornerstone is considered a fundamental part of brand management. Yet some observers believe the Indiana Fever have struggled to balance competing messages, particularly when media criticism appears to conflict with the marketing efforts built around the same player who is helping drive ticket sales and fan engagement. The long-term stakes are significant. If a marquee star were ever to become dissatisfied with the organizational direction, the consequences could extend far beyond a single roster decision. Reduced fan interest could impact attendance, merchandise sales, sponsorship opportunities, and television value. In today's sports landscape, star athletes often serve as the primary connection between leagues, sponsors, broadcasters, and fans, giving them a level of influence that continues to grow in the digital era. The heart of the debate is a larger question about how professional sports organizations adapt to a player-driven media environment. Traditional models placed most of the leverage with teams and executives, but modern athletes often bring their own audiences, commercial value, and media reach. That shift has created new challenges for franchises trying to balance organizational control with the realities of contemporary sports entertainment. As this story continues to evolve, the Indiana Fever may eventually face important decisions regarding leadership, communication, and long-term organizational strategy. Whether the current tensions represent a temporary disagreement or a deeper structural issue remains a matter of debate. One thing is clear: the discussion surrounding the franchise, its leadership, and its star players is unlikely to fade anytime soon. What do you think? Is this simply part of the growing pains that come with rapid success, or does it point to a larger issue within the organization? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more in-depth sports analysis and updates as the story develops.